for another session of Restart. So we are in RT6 and we are entering into session 3. ஸோ இப்போ நம்ம பார்க்க போகிறது டீப் வாட்டர். ஸோ டீப் வாட்டர் அப்படின்ற சாப்டர் அதோட என்சிஆர்டி லைன் பை லைன் எக்ஸ்ப்ளனேஷன் வித் proper word meanings, and then we'll see certain questions, and then we'll be done with this chapter. Moving on, let's get started. So before that, I just want to have the theme of the chapter. So this lesson is taken from William Douglas's autobiographical book of Men and Mountains. So basically William Douglas அப்படின்ற அதே ரைட்டர், ஸோ அவர் தான் ஹீஸ் த ரைட்டர். அவரோட ஆட்டோபயோகிராஃபிக்கல் நோட்லேருந்து ஒரு சின்ன எக்ஸப்ட் தான் இந்த பர்டிகுலர் சாப்டர், விச் டீல்ஸ் வித் த சப்ஜெக்ட் ஆஃப் கான்கரிங் ஃபியர். Talks about how he finally overcame his early phobia of the sea. The incident in the swimming pool where a bully nearly drowned him as a youngster, and the boyhood experience of being knocked down by the waves at the California beach contributed to a dread of water that haunted him even as an adult. He ultimately made the decision to face his anxiety because he was unable to enjoy swimming, fishing, or boating like others. His further attempts to get over the fear demonstrates its guts and willpower. So basically, being a younger guy who is exposed to swimming for the first time in his very young age, facing fear of swimming, fear of water, didn't know what to do, and he's basically becoming haunted because of that. He's facing anxiety because he wasn't able to swim, boat, or something related to water. And further on, he's getting on doing to attempts, a lot of attempts, and finally after several attempts, how he is able to overcome his fear, which shows his willpowerness and guts and all such things. So therefore the message being sent to us is that one must get above their fear. So the only message, only theme of this particular chapter is fear and overcoming this particular fear. So let's get started. William Douglas was born in Maine, Minnesota. After graduating with a bachelor's of arts in English and economics, he spent 2 years teaching high school in Yakima. However, he got tired of this and decided to pursue a legal career. He met Franklin D. Roosevelt at Yale and became an advisor and friend to the president. So basically, Franklin D. Roosevelt is the president at a point of time. He retired in 1975 with a term lasting 36 years and remains the longest serving justice in the history of court. So basically, he was a justice who served at the court at the highest level for the 36 years straight. So the following excerpt is taken from Men and Mountains. So basically that's the name of Men and Mountains, written by William O. Douglas. Of Men and Mountains. So it reveals how, as a young boy, William Douglas nearly drowned in a swimming pool. So in this essay, he talks about his fear of water and therefore how he finally overcame it. Moving down, I think it's not a very big chapter. So it happened when I was 10 or 11 years old. I had decided to learn to swim. There was a pool at the YMCA in Yakima that offered exactly the opportunity. The Yakima River was treacherous. Treacherous means dangerous. Mother continually warned against it and kept afresh in mind the details of each drowning in the river. But the YMCA pool was safe. It was only 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end, and while it was 9 feet deep at the other, the drop was gradual. I got a pair of water wings and went to the pool. I hated to walk naked into it and show my skinny legs, but I subdued my pride and did it. From the beginning, however, I had an aversion to water where I was in it. This started when I was 3 or 4 years old and the father took me to the beach in California. He and I stood together in the surf. I hung on to him, yet the waves knocked me down and swept over me. I was buried in the water. My breath was gone. I was frightened. Father laughed, but there was terror in my heart at the overpowering force of the waves. ஸோ பேசிக்கலி என்ன நடக்குது அப்படின்னா, இனிஷியலாக நம்மளோட ரைட்டர் வந்து ஹி வாண்ட்ஸ் டு லேர்ன் டு ஸ்விம். ஸோ அவர் ஒய்எம்சிஏ அப்படின்ற பர்டிகுலர் ஒரு பூல் இருக்குது அப்படின்றத தெரிஞ்சுக்கிறாரு யாக்கிமா அப்படின்ற இடத்துல. அண்ட் அங்கே வந்து அவரால் கற்றுக்க முடியும் அப்படின்னு நினைக்கிறாரு. இந்த மாதிரியான பர்டிகுலர் இடத்துல லைக் whenever what he is talking, so basically YMCA, actually I don't think a lot of men do know, that's Young Men's Christian Association. Young Men's Christian Association, I'm just repeating it twice. Young Men's Christian Association is YMCA. and Yakima is a place at Washington. Treacherous means dangerous. So basically, he was 10 or 11 years old at that particular point of time where he wants to learn to swim. And Yakima was basically a dangerous river actually. So his mother actually warned him about being drowned at that particular river. But YMCA pool was safe actually. Young Men's Christian Association pool was safe because it was only a 2 or 3 feet deep, and it was 9 feet deep at the other end, but the drop was actually gradual. Though it was the case, he actually hated being in that particular pool because he hated water. He had an aversion toward water. It was due to the fact that when he was 3 or 4 years old, his father took him to the beach in California, where he and his father, though were together, he was completely knocked down by the river, and yeah, that was happening at that particular point of time. My introduction to the YMCA swimming pool revived unpleasant memories and stirred childish fears. But in a little while, I gathered confidence. I paddled with my new water wings, watching the other boys and trying to learn my aping them. Okay, aping them means copying. I did this 2 or 3 miles on different days and was just beginning to feel at ease in the water when the misadventure happened. ஸோ பேசிக்கலி என்ன நடக்குதுன்னா, ஸ்விம்மிங் பூலில் வந்துட்டு போகும்பொழுது அவருடைய பழைய ஞாபகங்கள், அந்த பிட்டர் மெமரிஸ் எல்லாமே அவருக்கு ஞாபகம் வருது. ஆனால் கொஞ்ச நேரத்துலேயே அவருக்கு ஹீஸ் கெட்டிங் சம் அமௌண்ட் ஆஃப் கான்ஃபிடன்ஸ். ஸோ ஹீஸ் வியரிங் ஹிஸ் பேடல் வாட்டர் விங்ஸ். ஸோ வாட்டர் விங்ஸ் அப்படின்ற பேசிக்கலி அ டைப் ஆஃப் சூட் ஃபார் ஸ்விம்மிங் இன் ரிவர்ஸ் and watching the other boys and trying to learn and aping them. So I did this 2 or 3 times on different days and was just beginning to feel at the ease. So finally வந்துட்டு he just tried copying whatever the other boys does, and then finally he started trying to do himself for after 2 3 days, and then the misadventure happened. So I went to the pool when no one else was there. The pool was quiet, the place was quiet, there was still, and the tile bottom was as white and clean as a bathtub. I was timid about going in alone, so I had sat on the side of the pool to wait for others. Had not been there long when in came a big bruiser of a boy. So bruiser, I think it has certain meaning, which means that he's tough and aggressive guy. Probably 18 years old. He had thick hair on his chest. He was a beautiful physical specimen with legs and arms that showed rippling muscles. He yelled, "Hi, skinny. How do you like to duck?" Duck means basically push underwater, I think. So basically, he's fearful towards water, hence he's waiting for someone else to get into the water. Until then, he's getting into water. He just wants someone else to be with him so that he does not get. In case he gets drowned, someone will help them. So he's meeting a bruiser of a guy, which means a tough and aggressive guy who's about an 18 years old guy. So who had a thick hair and a long and a chest as well on his chest, and his physique was cool actually. So moving down with that, he picked me up and tossed me into the deep end. I landed in a sitting position, swallowed water, and went at once to the bottom. I was frightened, but not yet frightened out of my wits. On the way down, I planned, when my feet hit the bottom, I would make a big jump, come to the surface, lie flat on it, and paddle to the edge of the pool. So basically, this guy, the 18 years old guy, is just throwing Arthur into the pool. So what happened is that he is landing in a sitting position, and he has swallowed some amount of water, and as soon as he is entering water, he is going to the bottom, and he is not becoming frightened at once. Basically, he has got a plan that he will give a huge jump as soon as he reaches the bottom and come to the surface, lie flat, and paddle towards the pool. So that's the plan for that at that particular point. It seemed a long way down. Those 9 feet were more like 90. So on the 9 feet, it was like 90 feet. Before I touched the bottom, my lungs were ready to burst. But when my feet hit the bottom, I summoned all my strength and made what I thought was a great sprint upwards. I imagined I would bob to the surface like a cork. Instead, I came slowly. I opened my eyes and saw nothing but water. Water that had a dirty yellow tinge to it. I grew panicky. So basically, என்ன நடக்குது அப்படின்னா, அவரோட பிளான் வந்துட்டு it is becoming more of a failure because this guy, wait a minute, tinge means touch of a color. So let me just touch of color. I grew panicky. I reached up as if to grab a rope, and my hands clutched only at water. I was suffocating. I tried to yell, but no sound came out. Then my eyes and nose came out of water, but not my mouth. I flailed. Flailed means waved his hands, waving. At the surface of the water, swallowed and choked. I tried to bring my legs up, but they hung as dead weights, paralyzed and rigid. A great force was pulling me under. I screamed, but only the water heard me. I had started on the long journey back to the bottom of the pool. I struck at the water as I went down, expending my strength as in a nightmare fights an irresistible force. I had lost all my breath. My lung ached, my heart throbbed. Throbbed means I think it's felt pain. I was getting dizzy, but I remembered the strategy. I would spring from the bottom of the pool and come like a cork to the surface. I would lie flat on the water, strike out with my arms, and thrash with my legs. Then I would get to the edge of the pool and be safe. I went down, down endlessly. I opened my eyes, nothing but water with a yellow glow, dark water that one could not see. And then sheer, stark terror seized me. Stark means severe. Terror that knows no understanding, terror that knows no control, terror that no one can understand who has not experienced it. I was shrieking underwater. Shrieking means screaming. I was paralyzed underwater, stiff, rigid, and fear. Even the screams in my throat were frozen. Only my heart and the pounding in my head said that I was still alive. And then, in the midst of the terror, came a touch of reason. I must remember to jump then when I hit the bottom. At last, I felt the tiles under me. My toes reached out as if to grab them. I jumped with everything I had, but the jump made no difference. The water was still around me, looked for ropes, ladders, water wings. Nothing but water. A mass of yellow water held me. Stark terror took an even deeper hold on me like a great charge of electricity. I shook and trembled, moved with fright. Fright means. Let me just check it once. My arms wouldn't move, my legs wouldn't move. I tried to call for help, to call for mother, nothing happened. And then strangely there was light. I was coming out of the awful yellow water. At least my eyes were. My nose was almost out too. Then I started down a third time. I sucked for air and got water. The yellowish light was going out. Then all effort ceased. I relaxed, even my legs felt limp. And a blackness swept over my brain. It wiped out fear, it wiped out terror. There was no more panic. It was quiet and peaceful, nothing to be afraid of. This is nice to be drowsy, to go to sleep, no need to jump, too tired to jump. It's a nice to be carried gently, to float along in space. Tender arms around me, tender arms like mothers. Now I must go to sleep. I crossed to oblivion and the curtain of life fell. So, oblivion means unaware unconsciousness basically. The next I remember, I was lying on my stomach beside the pool, vomiting. The chap that threw me in was saying, but I was only fooling. Someone said, the kid nearly died. Be alright now. Let's carry him to the locker room. Several hours later, I walked home. I was weak and trembling. I shook. I shook and cried when I lay on my bed. I couldn't eat that night. For days, a haunting fear was in my heart. The slightest exertion upset me. Exertion. Making me wobbly in the knees and sick to my. Wobbly means weak. I never went back to the pool. I feared water. I avoided it whenever I could. A few years later, when I came to know that the waters of the Cascades, cascade means a waterfall, I wanted to get into them. Whenever I did, whether I was wading the Titan or bumping river or bathing in warm lake of the goat rocks, the terror that had seized me in the pool would come back. It would take possession of me completely. My legs would become paralyzed. Icy horror would grab my heart. This handicap stayed with me as the years rolled by. In canoes on Maine lakes, fishing for landlocked salmon, bass fishing in New Hampshire, trout fishing on the Deschutes, and Metolius in Oregon, fishing for salmon on the Columbia, at Bumping Lake in the Cascades. Wherever I went, the haunting fear of the water followed me. It ruined my fishing trips, deprived me of the joy of canoeing, boating, and swimming. So basically, wherever this guy goes, wherever the water body he reaches, this particular fear it always came in and seized him. Basically, it deprived all of his choice. I used every way I knew to overcome this fear, but it held me firmly in its grip. Finally, one October, I decided to get an instructor and learn to swim. Okay, so basically, this guy is finally gearing up, and he's trying to learn to swim. I went to a pool and they practiced 5 days a week and an hour each day. The instructor put a belt around me, a rope attached. So basically, he's practicing 5 days a week and an hour a day. Instructor put a belt around me. A rope attached to the belt went through a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. He held on to the end of the rope and we went back and forth across the pool, hour after hour, day after day, week after week. On each trip across the pool, a bit of the panic seized me. Each time the instructor relaxed his hold on the rope and I went to water, some of the old terror returned and my legs froze. It was 3 months before the tension began to slack. Then he taught me to put my face under water and exhale, and to raise my nose and inhale. I repeated the exercise hundreds of times. Bit by bit, I shed part of the panic that seized me when my head was went under. So basically, he's trying to get a training from a trainee, an instructor. So basically, he's practicing 5 days a week, an hour a day. Basically, he is having a rope belt that is around his waist, and he's starting to do a okay. He held one of the ropes and went back and forth across the pool, and then here day after day he's basically just relaxing the hold, and as deeper he goes every day, the old terror haunts him every time. And after 3 months of this particular things, all his terror was slowly beginning to lessen out. It is beginning to lower. He taught to how to exhale in water and inhale after coming out, and this practice was going under for several lot of times. And then next what he does is that he has held me at the side of the pool and had me to keep with me with my legs. For weeks I did just that. At first my legs refused to work, but then gradually relaxed and finally I could command them. Thus, piece by piece, he built a swimmer, and when he had perfected each piece, he put them together into an integrated whole. In April, he said, "Now you can swim, dive off, and swim the length of the pool, crawl, stroke." I did. The instructor was finished, but I was not finished. I still wondered if I would be terror stricken when I was alone in the pool. I tried it. I swam the length up and down. Tiny vestiges of old terror would return, but now I could frown and say to that terror, trying to scare me, huh? Well, here's to you. Look. And off I'd go for another length of the pool. So basically, vestiges means traces. This guy means traces. This went on until July, but I was still not satisfied. I was not sure that all the terror had left, so I went to the lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, dived off a dock at the Triggs Island, and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stampact Island. I swam the crawl, breaststroke, side stroke, and backstroke. Only once did the terror return. When I was in the middle of the lake, I put my face under and saw nothing but bottomless water. The whole sensation written in miniature. I laughed and said, "Well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me?" It fled and I swam on. Yet I had residual doubts. At my first opportunity, I hurried west, went up to Titan to Conrad Meadows, up the Conrad Creek Trail to Mead Glacier, and camped in the high meadow by the side of the Wormley. Next morning, I stripped, dived into the lake, and swam across to the other shore and back just as Dog Copran used to do. I shouted with joy, and Gilbert Peak returned the echo. I had conquered my fear of water. So the experience had a deep meaning for me, as only those who have known stark terror and conquered it can appreciate. In death, there is peace. There is terror only in the fear of death, as Roosevelt knew when he said, "All we have to fear is fear itself." Because I had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that fear of it can produce, the will to live somehow grew in intensity. At last, I felt released, free to walk the trails and climb the peaks and to brush aside free. So that's the story, and yeah, moving on, let's see certain important questions of this particular story. So that's all about the deep water, guys. Moving on, next we'll have a marathon session where we'll have a summary of all what we have done, and then we'll move on to the exam tomorrow. So that's it for this session. Take care. Bye bye.